Good evening and welcome to round 3 of the Zwift Racing League 2021-22 Season 2. You join us in New York City. Park Perimeter Loop is the course. It's bouncy fun with no massive climbs but enough up and down to make breaks possible and tire the legs out noticeably. It's 4 laps, which is 39.2 kilometres. There's no massive lead in for this, I think, but lead in's about 400 metres. And you're joining us for the Little Blue Penguins in EMEA West B1, BCAP 1, and I'll flick across to the Royals and Gentos in EMEA West C1 when I can. We're just about to hit the start. It's probably going to be a pretty hard start, and we're riding with Maryline at the moment. The Littles team for this week is Maryline and Teen and Anais, Catherine and Roseanne and Lauren. Best wishes to Arne, who is sick today, so Catherine stepped in for Arne, and also best wishes to Egan Bernal, who you may have seen was badly hurt in an accident. So we're off. Big peloton forming, one person off the back. That's not so great, but we start on the what I think of as the eastern side. I think it's the eastern side of the park, heading up. So we're going anti-clockwise around the park. So bumpy for quite a long while, and then a sprint. Maryline has taken up her customary position, sitting on the back of the pack. We have a BVRT rider 12 seconds off the back, and an Ionian looking at 3 seconds off the back. They should be able to, maybe. They're putting in an effort to try and catch up, but it doesn't look like it's going to work. So unlike last week, I can't give you an exciting tour guide of this area because I've never been to New York City. Well, that's probably technically true. I've been to JFK Airport, but that's not really the same, mostly because it's in New Jersey. So this course, as I said, there's no big climbs, but there's also not a lot in the way of flats. This is probably the longest flat on the course, and even now it's started to tip into a downhill, so it's either down or it's up. If you did the round and round Tour de Zwift standard ride, you'll be quite familiar, because that's a very similar ride, just in the opposite direction. The biggest climb is what's sometimes called Harlem Hill, which is in the top left-hand corner, so I'm going to call that the northwest corner. I'm not sure if it is the northwest corner. It kind of looks like it probably is the northwest corner. And that gets up to 10%. So if you were going to plan an attack, that would be a good place to plan an attack, though it's a long way from there to the sprint. So, but we did see in the Premier League yesterday people do that. Managed to get away there and collect some nice first across the line points. There were lots of first across the line points for the one sprint that we have on this route, and obviously FTS points, but those are for the whole event, whereas there are first across the line points for each lap. So we're approaching the northwest corner now, so it's going to get steep in a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds. So yeah, we turn, a little bit of a wobble, and then it's a big left and right. I don't know about anybody else. I find it difficult to work out where I am on this course. Or any of the New York courses that don't involve climbing up the big glossy bridges. I just sort of pedal. There's a couple of landmarks that I've got, but there's an awful lot of trees, water on either side, path, worrying tram tracks. I have such an aversion to tram tracks in real life that the things that look like tram tracks on this make me a bit nervous. So we're approaching Harlem Hill for the first time. Be interesting to see if anybody really puts in a big effort. We're getting 5 watts per kilo at the moment. That's pretty good, but that's mostly sort of covering, nobody launching, which makes sense because if you're going for FTS points, first and second lap are probably the times to do it. So it gets really steep as we turn. So yeah, we do have one rider just pushing off the front here, but easily closed down. So the 3 power-ups in use, none on this first lap. The 3 power-ups in use are the feather, which makes you lighter, the aero, which makes you go faster, and the ghost. Not the anvil, as was in the Premier League. They rethought that, and we now have the ghost. So that does mean that we will have riders possibly disappearing and then reappearing excitingly somewhere else. So top of Harlem Hill now. Pack still strung out a bit, but largely still together. The 1, 2, 3, I can certainly see 4 herd riders in the front group here easily. Catherine's just behind, so looks good. Yeah, there's Catherine and Teen. So yeah, all the herd riders still in the front group. So from here it's a long descent down the western side of the park. I'm bumping up and down as we go with flashing yellow lights and other excitement. And before we get to the first sprint, which is in what I'm going to call the southwest corner. It's not a long sprint. It is slightly downhill, which is why some people were planning things involving anvils, but given no anvil, those plans are out the window. So this looks like it's setting up for a classic sprint. It'll push up as we get pace will push up as we get closer to the sprint, and then it'll be a question of who blinks last and launches at just the right time. It's all a question of timing. Oh, and massive watts, obviously, but mostly timing. If you want FTS, you want to be riding through the pack. If you want first across the line, you want to be riding through the pack to win. So let's see if we can get across and sit with Teen. So here we are, 5 kilometres in. Closing on the first sprint, but still a little way to go. We're going round the big pond in the middle. The Little Penguins, of course, have won the first 2 races of the season and are currently sitting on top of the division, but the Ionian Bandidas are not far behind. having been second in both races. So we can see the pace just starting to push up here as we close on the first sprint. So it's a slightly blind approach to this sprint. You turn and then there's the line. You can just see the arch in the minimap in the top right hand corner now. So it's a climb and then a descent into the sprint itself. I think the first ever bullseye race, in fact the first and only bullseye race I ever did, featured this sprint heavily, and I was a very new Zwifter at that point, and I did not enjoy this little bit of hill. So here we go, definite lead off the front, Teen winding up, 10.4 watts, and we're into the start. So it looks like some good points there, both for some first across the lines, a couple of herd riders up the front there, a couple of little penguins up the front, I think at least two little penguins up the front, and Teen and Maryline putting in, and an ace putting in top 10 times. Obviously this is only the first lap, people might do faster laps than the second lap, probably not the third and fourth, but that's a great effort. And let's see if we get across to the Royals and the Gen 2s. So here we are with the Cs, with the Gen 2 penguins and the Royal penguins, and they indeed are just coming up to the sprint. Time that right. So here's the initial climb. I've got lots of, I see Amanda, and I'm with Grace at the moment. Sitting nicely mid-pack, doing 5 watts per kilo, and here we go into the sprint. Chelsea there, and Amanda. Obviously I don't get the sprint board for this because it's not the event I'm in, but that looked like some points for the herd there. So back across to the bees, who have turned at the bottom of the park. I think, yeah, just come out to the start-finish arch now. So they've turned round the bottom of the park, around the, what I'm calling the south end of the park. And are now doing this little climb, which for the real finish is going to be a little bit of a challenge. That climb up to this arch is a little exciting. Some people dropping serious watts. Are they launching an attack? It seems unlikely. Maybe they just like powering up hills. Who doesn't? But yeah, we're riding with an ace at the moment. We've got Roseanne alongside us. There are definitely possibilities for teams launching attacks on this course. It might be worth it. If you can get a group in the front and get away, there is a chance you could stay away, that you could time trial it out. Not easy at all, but it is doable. There's enough up and down that the peloton isn't quite as powerful as it is on, for example, the flat on Classique last week. So the pack settling in, doing just shy of 3, looks like. What's bouncing up and down, and obviously going up as we go up the hills, and then down as we go down, as people take micro rests. There's absolutely no possibility of super tucking on almost anything. I managed to super tuck in the Tour de Zwift, but I weigh the same as a house. And it was only for a couple of seconds. The thing about an up and down course like this is you can't be caught late on the ups. If you're not paying enough attention and you don't put the power back on, you could easily get dropped. So you can't ever just sort of like switch off and have a nice drink and just sit in the pack and wind. You've got to be ready for the ups and the downs. Makes it quite tiring, like more mentally than, well, physically and mentally. I quite like New York in some ways. I just wish it was a little bit more distinctive. There's a complaint I have about a number of the Swift worlds, particularly the bits of Innsbruck that aren't the climb are a little indistinguishable to me, and so, I enjoy France so much, but some bits of France can be a little bit field, someone waving field. So we're on the east side of the park. We're going to cross over the underneath the glass walkway with the pond off to our left. And then we wiggle around, we do a little hairpin, go back on ourselves again, so it's 2 hairpins back to face north, and then we turn, and then it's Harlem Hill time. I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody try something on this attack on Harlem Hill to try to get away and get the FAL points for the sprint on this lap. Put it this way, if I was racing, that would be what I would be futilely trying to do, because I don't sprint very well. The Littles have some really good sprinters in this race, obviously. Nace and Lauren and Maryline did amazingly last week in Classique, all 3 placing in the top 10, which was why the Littles won, that and all the sprints. So we turn, and now the thing that starts as a climb will happen as we go around the edge of this, and so we turn left and then left again, and then when you see the branch, the steep bits off to the left. So left, start climbing. I'm told that this is pretty much what it's like in real life, the park, which would be great fun to ride in real life. Imagine there's not many chances for there to be this few people in it. Also, I'm told no glass roads, which is disappointing. I've seen Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, and there was definitely that sort of thing in that. So there's the route to the glass roads. We're not going there, we're going up the other way. No attack here. This would be where I'd be using the feather, as one of the Swedish Swifters riders was doing there, but I may be a couple of seconds early. No real attacks here, just a nice easy 5.0 watts per kilo. Not too bad. Up the climb, and now we're on the descent. 1, 2, 3, 4 herd riders for sure in the front here. 5. So nice, right up the front. Just pushing our way through. And we're onto the long western side of the park. Just looked at the map. Pretty much right. The park is sort of oriented northeast to southwest, but that's a bit of a mouthful, so we'll call this the western side. These 3% drags, they aren't very steep, but they do sap your legs a little bit. You certainly want to be controlling your power fairly carefully, using the draft. This is one of the best courses I found to ride on the kicker with the kicker climb, which I got as a Christmas present, because it's actually slightly useful to have the motion of the front, because it indicates to you that you should probably start putting the power on. It's quite nice to have that kind of tactile input. I'm not going to say the kicker climb is absolutely worth the money, but it's quite fun. Key landmark for this sprint in the lead into it is that there's a turning that comes in from the left, and once you see that turning, then you're starting to climb that short hill up to the top of the sprint, and then it's maximum effort if you're sprinting, and close to maximum effort if you're just trying to hang on, all the way over the finish line. Just there on the minimap, as we go past the small pond to the left, You can see the turning coming in, and we can just start to see the sprint arch, so it's race on. See the times from last time coming up. 10 was at 9:36. 9:36 was the 10th fastest time. Lots of arrows being dropped, building up speed. So that was significantly quicker than the first time around. As in 9:36 was the top last time, and that's going to have thrown everything into a bit of disarray. There's definitely going to be a lot of people with multiple, well, some people with multiple times in the top 10 there. And let's see what happens on lap 3 and lap 4. Though really you'd expect it to be done by then, the fastest through. It looked like there were good points for first across the line there as well for Teen and Maryline, and Anace was not far off, so that was a really good effort. Let's go across to the Royals and Gentoos. And we're watching Chelsea of the Gentoos here, and they are indeed just coming up to the sprint. This is by no means a short race. It's 39 kilometres. Each lap is about just shy of 10. So 40 kilometres of this. It's going to take close to an hour, I'd have thought. We've got a few feathers being dropped there. Once again, that's probably a little bit early, because it's going to run out when you're about halfway up this little hill. There, and you could have just done with it just a couple of seconds more. Oh, somebody used the invisibility, the ghost, and they're off the front. And nobody's going to catch them from there. But Chelsea's launching a huge sprint. This is going to be good for second at least, I think. Ryder coming over the top of her just takes her out, so Chelsea third. But it looks like there were fast times on that go round as well for the C's. Excellent sprint there from Chelsea. So we're back to the littles and the bees, who are just going through the start-finish line. And we're riding with Lauren. Lauren's had a fabulous season so far, scoring lots of points in both the first two races. And we know she's pretty much on the back of the pack, so that means that about half of the riders in this race have been dropped. They're a good 20 seconds off. So what? 35th? Yeah. So half of 71 have been dropped. Might not quite be 71 because that might include all the people who are sitting in the pen, like me, with doing DSing or streaming. But it's probably about right. So yeah, half the field dropped. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all 6 little penguins in this front group. That's really, really good riding. So in this division there's the Swedish Swifters, the Ionians, Electric Spirit, and 2 Crushpod teams, Crushpod Weird and Crushpod Scold. Crushpod Weird were really strong last season. They won the division, in fact. A little less strong this season. They've lost a bunch of their best riders to the dreaded A category. But they're still a pretty good team. Obviously the Ionian team has been the biggest threat to the Little Penguins this season so far. We do seem to have had 3 punchy sprinters courses. This one's not a pure sprinters course, but it's pretty close. But there were definitely some climbers courses later on in the season, and of course next week is the first team time trial, which, all things being equal, I'll be taking part in, so that will be fun. Nothing like a nice 24 kilometres on the flat round Douce France. Assuming I can hold on to the team, which is a little bit questionable because I do appear to have lost a few watts over the Christmas period. Lovely shiny bikes. So obviously the feather is a useful one if you're going to attack on Harlem Hill. So would the ghost be. If you were really going to, if you thought you had enough strength to get away, you could possibly try to use the ghost and get ahead without anyone noticing. I notice he's riding a magnificent two-tone Tron. Well done with the slider there. Maryline, of course, is on the orange Tron because she's Dutch. That one goes faster. And in general, the Little's colour scheme is the herd kit with orange detailing. So orange hats and orange socks, and most people on orange Trons. So we turn and we start the climb towards Harlem Hill. I never understand people's choice of when to use their power up. I mean, did they accidentally hit the feather there? Why would you not want it for the hard, steep bit rather than the moderate bit? So at least we don't have the sight of people dropping the anvil on climbs. Come on, Lauren, big effort, stay on. Clearly struggling a little bit up this climb. This is faster, I think, than previous climbs have been. Come on, Lauren, you can do it. Get on, get on, get on. 6 watts per kilo just to hold on. She doesn't weigh very much, Lauren, but that's not because categories are done by watts per kilo. You actually slightly control for weight, which is a problem if you're a lighter rider. But I think she's going to just hold on to the back here. Big effort now, and you can do it. There's a danger that pack is going to go away from her, but she might just have enough draft off that back rider to catch back on. Come along, catch on. Push, push, push. Ah, pity, 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 pity. Let's go up to the front. So we're on the western side of the park, coming past the water. Big pond on the left. Maybe it's a lake. Is it a lake? Probably a lake. I've always been slightly intrigued by the buildings, the big pointy ones on the right hand side. Are any of these things they call brownstones, or are they all like office blocks and stuff? I've never known quite what a brownstone is. Definitely some little pushes going off the front here. That's Kate Lashells from Crush Pod just riding on the front. We're riding back with Maryline as we approach the sprint for the penultimate time, the third time. early use of the aero helmet there. It's a choice. Trying to make a little break. Oh, and a ghost, but that didn't really go anywhere. Maryline dropping the power up here. The aero helmet. And here we go for the sprint. Maryline just holding off the Donia rider at the moment, just taken there, but it looks like 4th maybe for Maryline. Cat Ridgway doing an amazing sprint for BVRT, and getting herself onto the sprint. Somebody just used a ghost here. Are they going to try and break? It's an interesting idea if they've got the legs. Nope, they're not. They just wasted it. Yeah, why not? So there's Catherine pushing through for the littles, but here's the rest of the pack. Right, let's go across to the Royals and the Gentoos. So Grace has just got dropped off the back there. Chance of getting back on, but it's going to be tricky from here. So in the front group with Ina Ketzer from the Gentoos, as they close in on the sprint. So this front group in the C's is, I think, significantly smaller than the one in the B's. Of 97 racers, it looks like it might be about 25 in this front group, perhaps. Who can we see? Chelsea. I think I saw Dorian. Just sitting here. A bit of danger of being dropped here. I'd hate to be the curse of death and just zoom between riders getting dropped. No, she's going to hang on the back, I think. No, I am apparently the kiss of death. Yeah, so the best thing to do, I think, from maybe you can get back on there, She's putting out 4.5 watts per kilo. That's a really good effort, but I think it's not enough. I think they're just going to go away from her. And it's probably better to sit up and wait for some friends. So back with B's, and we're riding with Roseanne. So I'm going to stay with the bees until they finish now, because I think that would mean I still might be able to get back across to the Royals and the Gentoos for their final sprint and for their finish. And we're on the eastern side of the park. Started in the daytime, it's now night. Time moves strangely in Zwift. So at least it's raining. It's anybody else, but I actually tend to cycle slower when it's raining in Zwift. It's really weird. So at this point, I will be stunned if nobody tries anything on Harlem Hill. It feels like settling. If you've not got a sprint, why would you not go then? Why would you not try at least? I mean, it's not going to work, probably, but I'd certainly have a go. I mean, unless I felt like I could ride for someone else, but it's really tricky. But I think I'd be trying to launch an attack on that hill. So we're reaching the northeast corner now. Going to go through those two hairpins. The first one nice and swooshy and downhill, and then the next one sort of middling, and then it's Harlem Hill time. I mean, we're 45 minutes into the race. It's going to have been sapping. People's legs are going to be starting to run out of juice. So if you do have a bit, now might be a good time. Well, now, but on this hill, on this next go of Harlem Hill. The little penguins still have 5 in this front group. That's very, very useful. So here we go, big swooshing downhill. Roseanne just on the back here, Catherine ahead. Roseanne, push up a little bit. This is not the point to really be hanging off the back. You want to be in the middle, nice and safe and ready to respond. There, that's much nicer and tightened up. Yeah, it looks like we might be down to 26, 27 riders in this front group. Maybe not even that. So here we go, starting the climb up Harlem Hill. Turn, take a look at where the glass road goes off to the right, and then we turn and climb again. So Saturnia rider just off the front here. This must be it now. Just push, push, push. Somebody's got to have a go. So yeah, 6 watts from the electric spirit rider. Couple of feathers dropped. This is the right time to use the feather, definitely. But oh, this is a good effort from Lisco from the Italian Swifters. But I don't think it's enough. I think she's going to get swallowed by the pack. And the pack comes back together. So the next thing that might be worth trying is attacking just after the sprint. You've only got 1.5 kilometres from the end of the sprint to the finish line, so that is an attackable distance. If you're going to do that, you're going to have to judge it perfectly, because you don't want to sprint maximally on the sprint, but nor do you want to get dropped by the pack. You want to still be with the pack, like just about maybe 3/4 of the way back through the pack on after the sprint, and then you can launch as people wind down after the sprint. It's tricky because it's not even uphill after the sprint. The ideal time to do that is when after the sprint there's an uphill and you can attack there. But if we don't get a big split there, it's an attack there, it's going to be down to finishing power and timing. And the timing is really hard for that finish, because it's an uphill finish, and quite steep uphill. So this is it. Coming now. A little way to go before the last sprint, but this is the tiring leg sapping bit. Just hoping you can get to the sprint with functional legs, and then to the finish. It's 50 minutes in, punching all these little hills, all those sprints. Let's see who's got what left. So is it 27 riders in the front group? Pretty much exactly. And a good 20% of them being little penguins. Sneaky little super tuck going in there. Come on, Roseanne, get back on. Yeah, easily. So the pace is definitely slower this time around than as you'd expect than in previous laps. They're sitting probably closer to, well, now the power's going on as they approach the sprint, but it's still sort of 2.5-ish, 2.6. People definitely trying to recover. Trying to get something back for this last sprint and then the run into the finish. Oh, sneaky little ghost there. Roseanne working hard to stay on here. Some first across the life points. I didn't see who was first, but here we go, ready for the big finish. So we've got, what, maybe 2 kilometres to go. And here Roseanne's counter-attacking. This is definitely a counter-attack. And we've had a ghost from, I think, Marie-Line. This is the little penguins launching an attack on, trying to get onto Ridgeway. There's Marie-Line. Have they got a break? Have they got enough? They've got a second. That might be enough. Catherine's with them as well. This is definitely a little penguin attack. Go, go, little penguins. Cat Ridgeway is staying with them. I don't know that they've got enough of a gap. I think it was a brilliant effort, but I don't know if it's enough. But if something's right, there is just a tiny gap there. Nah, it's gone. And the pack is back together. Just didn't quite manage to get enough of a break. It was close. It was a really, really good effort. So jumped across to Marie-Line. Not that I'm like placing bets as to who's going to do well at the finish, but here it is, finish time. We've got Marie-Line up with Catherine. So Cat Ridgeway and F Sharp. Here we go, big finish time. Marie-Line maybe 8th, but that's an amazing effort. Let's buy that little penguin. So lots of points there. Not as convinced that, I'm not certain of the results. We'll have to see. Last week it was pretty clear that they'd won, but this year, this week, not so much. Let's see who we can find in. So there's Catherine. She's a bit off the front. So Chelsea with the Gentoos. I think this is the front group. Chelsea just on the back here. Not contesting the sprint, but maybe contesting the finish if she can get back on, which I suspect they will. This group will close onto the back of the first group. Chelsea riding really well with this front group as they turn and head towards the finish. Some more Aeonians, RWB. Another crush pod Verdana. I think Chelsea might be a little bit by herself here for herd riders. Now the finish is in sight. So it's going to be just over an hour for the C's. More power-ups, but really too early. Got to leave it really late. This is too early as well. You're not going to win it from here, from now. Just going to give people a tow. And when Chelsea launches, that's a really nice time to go. Don't know if she's got quite the legs to get in front, but this is going to be a good finish for her. Looks like third, yeah, third for Chelsea there. Great attack at the end. Really, really good timing. So that concludes the coverage of this week. Next week I hope to be streaming again, but streaming while racing, so you can watch me in the corner slowly dying as we do a team time trial. Well done to everyone riding tonight, particularly the littles